Hey everyone, Cameron with CBM Reviews here, and sorry to keep you waiting, but we're back to the road to Infinity War. This time we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was directed by James Gunn. It starred Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, and featured the voices of Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper. It also had Lee Pace as the villain here. This movie was different from all the other movies that came before it. It had a level of humor that you've only really kind of seen in the Iron Man films, specifically the first one, but it kind of ramped it up and it was a lot of fun. It also had an extensive soundtrack, something that the Marvel movies really didn't have before this time. Sure, they had some songs, you know, AC/DC and things like that, but this one had a slew of things. Quick story. It essentially revolves around Peter Quill, who's from Earth. He gets abducted by the Ravagers, who is led by Yondu Udonta, played by Michael Rooker. He grows up in space, becomes a Ravager, and he steals this article called the Orb, which we later find out is the Power Stone. This purple object is the Power Stone. You have already heard me talk about the Power Stone rant in the Thor The Dark World review. But this one is the legit Power Stone. We find out later on that it's an Infinity Stone. He steals it, he takes it to a planet called Xandar, which is home of the Nova Corps. Several people get wind that Peter Quill is on Xandar to sell the orb, including Gamora, who is working for Ronan, who is also working for Thanos, as well as Rocket and Groot, an anthropomorphic raccoon, and a talking tree whose vocabulary consists of 3 words: I am Groot. Peter Quill is pretty much ambushed by both of these forces. One because he has the orb, the other one because he's got a bounty on his head. And they all get arrested by the Nova Corps because when you cause trouble on Xandar, you gonna get arrested. They are taken to the Kyln, which is an outer space prison where they run into Drax the Destroyer, whose family was killed by Ronan the Accuser. Rocket devises a plan for them to get out because they're going to sell the orb to someone. They do so in spectacular fashion, and they get to nowhere, which is this giant severed head in the middle of space. They meet with the Collector, who informs them that the orb is actually the Infinity Stone that I mentioned earlier. And through no fault of their own, the place kind of goes bluey. They decide, we can't sell this to a private person, we need to take it to the Nova Corps. But before they get a chance to do so, Ronan crashes the party, takes the Infinity Stone, and now the entire galaxy is in danger. So they band together to try and stop Ronan's forces from going back to Xandar, to destroying the entire planet, the entire civilization, commit genocide. They go there, they band together, they stop Ronan through a series of interesting acts. And that's essentially the story in a nutshell. The story itself is fun. The movie is more fun. Getting introduced to all these characters is great. We have Peter Quill, who's also known as Star-Lord. I haven't called him Star-Lord for this whole video. I don't know why. You have Star-Lord, who is kind of like the eyes in which the audience sees everything else. You have Gamora, who is against everything that Thanos stands for, and she's trying to right the universe of his evil because she's seen it firsthand. You've got Drax, who's trying to avenge his family because the forces of Thanos, specifically Ronan, are what killed his family, and he wants to avenge them. Then you've got Rocket and Groot, who are a mismatched pair. They play off of each other. Rocket, who's the cynical being who shouldn't even exist, but because he's been genetically modified and experimented on, there he is. And then you've got Groot, who is really this innocent, lovable, giant, talking tree man. And his altruistic senses are what make him so lovable. But the things that are really good takeaways is that this really is the door wide opening on the cinematic universe combining. Specifically with Thanos, you get a first really good look at Thanos in this when he's talking to Lee Pace's Ronan the Accuser. It also for the first time explains the Infinity Stones to us as the viewer. The comic book people, we already knew, but the casual viewer didn't know. This movie's fun, the music's great, the story's good, everything is fine. The only real issue, the villain is really powerful and is kind of forgettable. In my opinion, he's not a bad villain. Like, Aldrich Killian, not a good villain. Malekith the Accuser, terrible villain. Ronan the Accuser, just a forgettable villain. I actually like him as a villain. I'm one of the few people that actually appreciate his villainry, because he is an ethnocentric extremist. And that's scary, especially considering he has all this power to back him up. However, he is forgettable. I wish he was more memorable, but it doesn't matter. This movie's great. We are finally introduced to Infinity Stones, and it's done in a marvelous spectacle that you have to see. I'm not the only person who had something to say about it, so I'm going to let John take it away.
Alright, so this time we're talking Guardians of the Galaxy. Now I remember when they first released the title card treatments, just a little bit of promo artwork teaser for Phase 2. I remember looking at that thinking, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's like a D-list title from the 70s. But, yeah, alright Marvel, you seem to know what you're doing. We'll give it a shot. Then they released the first promo artwork, and I'm going, so we got a guy in steampunk armor and a tree and a wrestler. And then you get the trailer. And the trailer, I didn't like it. I'm looking at it going, is Marvel trying to do a stoner comedy now? Like, I mean, you've got a couple of big names out there. Zoe Saldana, she had been nominated for an Oscar for Avatar. Bradley Cooper had been nominated for 3 Oscars. Vin Diesel's the lead man in one of the biggest action franchises in film history. And Batista's a wrestler, so I mean, I didn't have high hopes for that. And then you got Chris Pratt, who'd been in some big movies, but who most people still only knew as the goofy guy from Parks and Rec. So, yeah, alright, I wasn't really excited for it. I don't think I've ever been that happy to be wrong. I saw that movie 4 times in theaters. First time I saw it, I was completely blown away. So, took a friend and his wife to see it. He looks at me on the way out and he's going, you know what, I mean, it's August, and I know I've seen the best movie I'm going to see this year. Took another friend from work to see it. And then, on the way to a job interview, stopped in Conway, watched it, and then headed back on the road because I had some time to kill. Why not go see Guardians of the Galaxy again? Maybe it's the low expectations or no expectations, but it's not the little movie that could. It's the movie that never should have been able to, and absolutely knocked it out of the park. You've got a stellar cast that just, kills it on every level. You've got, an amazing soundtrack. I think it ended up being Amazon's #1 soundtrack that year, and one of the top-selling albums that year. The direction, the craftsmanship, everything about it is just top-notch. It's the movie that kind of stepped outside of Marvel's factory mentality and let the director have a vision, have a voice, and he really came up with something amazing. If you look at the prison break sequence, like that to me kind of sums up the whole movie. You've got this great shot where you have all 5 of our principal characters in frame, and exactly where they need to be. You've got Gamora, Star-Lord, and Rocket planning to break out. Drax is just hanging out back here seeing what's going on, and Groot is like, oh, okay, we need a battery, cool, I'm on this. So the whole scene plays out like a perfectly told joke, while developing the characters, while advancing the plot. It's great storytelling at every level. The other big thing that stood out for me was the opening bit. That's when I knew I was in for something special. You've got this heart-wrenching sequence with Peter and his mom, and her dying from cancer, spoilers. Then he's abducted by aliens, then we're on an alien world with this Indiana Jones type setup going through this temple, and then we get to our music, and then we get to our title card. And I remember thinking, alright, this movie knows what it's doing. It knows when to breathe, it knows how to handle a major tone shift from, my mom just died, to, hey, here's Come and Get Your Love, while we're dancing through an alien temple. And it works perfectly. I love this movie. It's one of my absolute favorites in the entire Marvel canon. As much as I love the Cap movies, Guardians is that one so weird, so far out there, never should have worked, and then was just absolutely amazing. Would I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely. I showed this movie to my mom, right? My mom called me when she went out and saw the sequel. I didn't even tell her that there was a second one out. And she called me and she goes, I saw the second one, it was great. So my mom doesn't care about comic book movies, but that's the power of a good movie. It's the power of a good story. And that's something that Guardians of the Galaxy just, has in spades. So, yeah, give it a look if you haven't already.
Thanks, John, for those words. And if you want to be like John and submit a video, send your videos to comicbookquizbowl@gmail.com. We're currently accepting entries for Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, and Captain America Civil War. Also, if you haven't heard about the giveaway, subscribe to the channel and you're entered for a chance to win the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe on Blu-ray. Don't miss out on this, guys. I really am looking forward to giving this away. So that's it for Guardians of the Galaxy. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe. Share this video with all your friends, and as always, this is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.